never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day folks, how are you? Merry ho-hos and all the things that you get at this time of the year, including car park bloody fever and dickheads everywhere. Apparently the most dangerous time of the year is Christmas time in car parks, okay? And having seen some of what I have seen in car parks in recent days driving around, I am not at all surprised. And it may play into some of the figures that I'll probably get to bring up later in tonight's show. Before I introduce our guests tonight, there may be some themes that we talk about. There may be some things that people find uncomfortable. This is not a channel where free speech is going to be quashed in any way, shape or form. I believe people have the right to say whatever the hell they want to say. And while I've copped a bit of flack for saying things myself, it is the price we pay. We know what we can and can't say. And I'm not going to quell people saying what they believe and what I believe a lot of people believe just because certain individuals or certain flavors of folks don't like it. So a lot of stuff going on in the news. The 7 terrorists that were, dramatically crashed into yesterday on a Sydney street, no justification to keep them. So they've been released. I wonder who pays for the damages to their car. And the damages to the police car that crashed into there. Was it 2 police cars that crashed into that little I-30? Somebody's going to have to pay for the damages to that car. Do you think it should be the blokes who they crashed into, got out, sat down and faced walls, handcuffed, kept in jail for however long, and couldn't find a reason to keep them? All right. That's a bit of a mistake to begin with. So which intelligence agency handed down that information to the New South Wales Tactical Operations Group or New South Wales Police so that they could enact that little thing yesterday? Maybe act is the right word. Nobody's saying whether it was ASIO, nobody's saying whether it was the AFP, but the AFP are saying words like partner agencies. So they're sort of shunting it a little bit out of their ball court, if you like, and into ASIOs. So those 7 gone. And now imagine roaming the streets of Sydney wondering how they're going to get their car back to Melbourne to get it fixed. I'm sure they'll go to a near mosque, being Friday, though may have been let out before prayers, and I'm sure they'll get a lot of help at that mosque. Tons of it, in fact. Hasn't stopped Sleazo announcing the new government is going to establish a national gun buyback scheme, of course, to purchase newly banned and illegal firearms. That would be newly banned because they're making up laws as they go along. I saw Silver Fox had a comment which was pretty cool. He thinks he'll be able to get some great cash for his legal firearms and be able to buy something that's illegal and far more dangerous on the black market. I think Silver Fox has his tongue firmly in his cheek there, but he makes a very, very valid point, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly when Wade joins us. One of the things that I was referring to about shopping centres and dickhead drivers this time of year and how things have changed so much. I mean, car parks are always dangerous places for dings and all that kind of thing, but there seems to be a dramatic rise in cars being bashed into, posts being run into, and all sorts of crap. And there's been a new bit of news released. The temporary visa holders in Australia have surged to a record 2.9 million people, or 10% of the population. 10% of the population can't friggin' drive. That's only the imported ones. There's a lot more that have been here a lot longer, some of them born here, that still can't friggin' drive. So, I don't know. Is that the reason why this Christmas, like all good Christmases, when you deck the halls, you also fill them with bollards, because there's been a new delivery of cement bollards to Martin Place in Sydney in the last day or so. And, well, nothing says, as that says, nothing says have a happy multicultural nation and Merry Christmas like more bollards delivered to the centre of Sydney. To speak more about what's going on in the world of this craziness, we introduce our man who waves a lot on a Friday evening, and we love him, have him around if he's been able to wake up. Good evening, Vincenzo. Focused as he is on your comments at the moment, so we won't disrupt him too badly. And the man of the moment, travelling. I beg your pardon?
My darling sister always rings me when I'm on the screen. Your microphone, mate, where is it?
Oh, hanging up there. I'll bring it down a bit, shall I? That'll make life a little bit easier. Very good. And now I'll put the bloke on who we always enjoy talking to. He has travelled more kilometres around this country than most Australian farmers, plus whatever he's done on the tractor. Will you please welcome from Billboard Battalion, Wade Northousen. G'day, buddy. How are you? Oh, no, you're muted, mate. You can unmute yourself, or you can... It'll make it a lot easier.
Let's try that on for size.
There you go. That works much better. Welcome back from South Australia, mate. You had a very successful rally over there, and you stayed another week or so over there while you were there. So you want to kick us off there? How did that go?
Yeah, no, that actually went fairly well. We went across to do a presentation at a place called Gamaraka. That's in the Adelaide Hills in South Australia. And we're over there for a few days. Got invited across there by an old couple who are just absolutely soul to the earth, just terrific people in the side of telling people the truth and helping the Australian people. So we as it turns out, we had a look at a couple of places across in SA while we're there, and the meeting there was a public town hall meeting that we did at, as I said, Gamaraka in Adelaide Hills, the very day after. So we did our meeting on Saturday, the 13th of December, and Sunday, the 14th of December, was the horrendous situation that happened in Sydney at Bondi Beach. And you wouldn't believe it, Carl, that, as you know, I talk about a fair few issues. And some of the issues that I spoke about the previous day were security issues and what the government does, and all the sort of dangers that we face that the government brings to us, and they enable. And I've done a lot as you were in Canberra just recently. We've done a lot on the likes of Marine Faruqi, who's an Australian senator, a Australian senator, and she's 100% wears the a kaffir into the parliament there. That's the black and white tea towel looking thing that most people would associate with terrorism these days, with Islamic terrorism. So I think that the stuff that we've been talking about recently is it's this is where we are. Billboard Battalion, and and you and I have discussed things. I've done many podcasts with other people as well, and we continually push this. Well, here in this most tragic circumstances, we've seen the chickens have come home to roost, and I'll say from the outset that the Australian Labor Party and the Greens have blood on their hands. They have helped to set this up. They have helped to enable the people who have done this. They've enabled all the Islamic terrorist stuff. So yeah, this is a very bad time, but this is what we talk about all the time, Carl.
So I'm not suggesting for a minute we should put aside what happened in Bondi, but what has happened in Bondi, and even before all the bodies are in the ground, the Australian government, and I say from federal to state level, have begun to enact laws that are going to impinge every Australian legal firearms owner. And it strikes me as quite strange that the fellow who had the firearms, A, wasn't Australian, and I can't imagine how he got licensed, but he did. But he wasn't even Australian. He was an Indian national. And his son was clearly radicalized, which ASIO were aware of. But now, every legally owned gun currently owned by a fully licensed and accredited shooter in this country is under threat of being taken off them. In fact, a lot of them will be taken back in this new great buyback offer that John Howard initiated in 1996, and it now seems like Albo wants to leave as his legacy going forward. What are your thoughts?
So there's a lot there, and I was very heavily involved in the representing shooters and a lot of the protests and that happened back in 1996 and 97. And I can tell you right now, the first thing that we need to look at is what you mentioned first, is that ASIO had these people on a watch list. They were on a terrorist watch list, and they were allowed to buy guns. Now, I put it to you that the ASIO and the government wanted them to have guns. They wanted this to occur. And, you know, you hear all the different people talking about various things, but I'm here to tell you, and I've been doing this for a long time, Carl. And as I said, if you know the history of all this, then I guarantee you the government knew that this was going to happen, and they facilitated this to happen. The entire Labor Party and the Greens should be arrested. They should be put in jail. They should be standing trial for conspiracy to commit these terrorist attacks against Australia, because they did it. Now, you know, we're going to hear so many people, and I've heard so many already say, oh, you know, how did these people have guns? Okay, what a great question. Now, why do people stop there? The answer is because the government and ASIO, who are totally corrupt, they support the terrorists, as do the leadership of the Australian Federal Police. They wanted them to have guns. So we saw this very event happen so that they can do the exact thing that the governments have just done, recall Parliament and put up another enormous swath of guns that are now going to be outlawed and banned and taken off people, and also to bring in enormous changes to what you're allowed to say. That is why this happened. And sadly, they bring in all these Islamic extremists, these terrorists, and they encourage this action to happen. They encourage the expansion of the Islamic terrorist operation, because that is a part of the global plan. That is a part of the global, we call it the New World Order, in which they tell us what they're going to do. So we'll explore that a bit more in a minute.
The Australian government funded the one of the Islamic groups in this country $27 million last financial year to give us a Muslim update, supposedly, to bring them more into line with us, or us more into line with them. I don't know quite how it works. But they've sent $27 million clean straight into the Islamic schools and all of that. People aren't seemingly asking too many questions about that at the moment. Wade, my question is, given the atrocities that occurred, this knee-jerk reaction that appears to have happened with government seems to be moving faster than anything else I've seen in government in bloody years. I also have an email from somebody who says that they were sitting having lunch in a certain hotel that you and I might know pretty well in Canberra, when they were overheard 4 people sitting down for lunch, basically having a working lunch, discussing, and these were lobbyists and internal parliamentary bureaucrats, working on a plan for new gun measures, new gun laws. There was going to be something that happened in December that they were talking about that was going to trigger this, and that's why they needed to work on it. And in fact, I don't know how to go in and look in the public service for jobs being advertised, but there is also very quietly been a new job advertised with a very, open-ended sort of job title. But this appears to be a job for somebody to head up that new Department of Firearms Control in this country, where they're planning, I believe, to make it illegal for you to store your own weapon or store your own ammunition. And there is a theory that you'll have to get your guns from your local gun club, but your ammunition will have to come from a police station or some other government place. So it's going to get pretty stupid, Wade, isn't it?
Well, and like I've been saying, and right from back in 1996, we knew that they were deliberately creating problems. The Port Arthur massacre, that was a government-initiated and security services initiated massacre. Martin Bryant did not do that. That was specifically done by expert professional military marksmen. That was not some random nuffy who was wandering around who just did that. So we knew
and
then.
It's basically an open secret in Tasmania. They name the guy who did it. They can basically tell you the flight he got out of Tasmania on and the adjoining flight he got on in Tullamarine that took him to South Africa, where he still lives.
So, and I want to just say to the Australian people, and before we sort of look at the rest of it, I just want to say to the Australian people, it is time for you to wake the hell up. It is time for the Australian people to realise what is happening here. And we've got shooters organisations who are as dumb as they're just not smart. We've got industry bodies like farmers organisations, equally as stupid. We've got so many people in the community who just do not understand. They don't know. They don't want to know. They're happy to be picked off. They're happy to just believe the government's there to do the right thing by them. And every time the government's setting more people up to be dead. So it's about time people get their head out of their backside and start to understand what the hell's going on. Because to speak to your point, Carl, the government did seem to be able to move very quickly. That's because they already had this stuff already set up. That's
already
the
in the plan,
point.
ready to go.
Absolutely.
So can a farmer get away with a 22 and a shotgun on a property?
No.
So why does a farmer need more guns than a 22 rifle and a shotgun?
Well, exactly the same as I suppose tools in the workshop, drills, angle grinders, welders, all that sort of thing. Different jobs require different kind of guns. Some need shotguns, some need small caliber rifles, some need bigger, heavy caliber rifles. This depends on what you're doing. And so the farming side of it, they're going to whinge and bellyache and squawk and scream and carry on, but they'll actually do nothing. They'll do nothing of any value, and they'll just sit there and cop it. And next time, and I guarantee you, the government is organising more massacres. The government is organising more terrorist events. There will be next times when they come back to take more guns. So this is a very specifically planned strategic setup to get rid of all of the guns in Australia so that the people in this country are defenceless. Because as you and I both know, they're gradually knocking people off. They've done the whole COVID thing and killed millions of Australians with that. And they're going to come back to do it again. And when they start shutting down people's food supply, and people start to nut it out, and they start to push back on the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, who is actually the enemy here, the government is working for them, then when people realize their lives are actually being targeted and they want to fight back, they're not going to be able to, because they're too stupid to realize they haven't got any guns left, and they're that dumb that they allowed the politicians, the parliaments, to put in place all these laws and regulations, bring in millions of people from overseas who hate us, and also hand over our country to the World Health Organization, where they intend to kill us. So, it is very, very serious, and the Australian people need to get with the program while you still can.
The anti-Semitism badge has been flown very, very high this last week. Is that a bit of social engineering, or does Australia have a real problem?
Well, I think you've got to look at, there is a real problem, and it's an orchestrated problem. And we do see a lot of Jewish businesses, the Jewish people, being targeted by extreme Islam, who, and let's just get something straight. There are a huge number of Muslims in Australia who are terrific people. They want to live in peace. They just want to be able to go to work, do their job, raise their families, make money, and do exactly the same as anybody else. They're not radical extremists, anything. But the small minority who are eventually end up controlling the majority. So the whole thing about anti-Semitism, it is very real. It has been here for centuries. And now, because the government are helping the terrorists to do this, we're seeing that anti-Semitism start to play out in a much more on the ground and in real terms kind of a way.
Might bring you in, Vince. You've oh no, I'm sorry. You've been a shooter most of your life, haven't you?
Yep. Yeah. So, and to answer your question, why do we need more than a 22 or a shotgun? You ever tried shooting a bull in the head with a 22? It don't work. Same with a root, just bounces off. So, yeah, pointless in that respect. As far as I'm concerned, do we need gun regulations in Australia? Yes. Do we need to train people how to use guns? Yes. Let me give you a so out-of-the-box example. Right now, if China marches across the border, how much chance have our army got of stopping them?
None.
Not much. How much have we got, the people? I bet you back in 1945, everybody had a gun. Why?
Yep.
Right? Because they're protecting the country. Now,
the Japanese were coming over the border.
Yeah. What happened on the weekend was terrifying and sad, and the Jewish people are just like everybody else, right? They have their religion, but it's not incompatible with what this country's values are. So that's one thing. But these people that did this, if someone said, if we had the ability to shoot those people, and there's a lot of shooting done, but it was all with cameras. But if someone had had the ability to actually have a firearm, who was properly trained, has gone through training, and was registered and had it carry, how many lives could have been saved that day by a standard Australian? Just recently in the United States, they've brought out a report. 48% of all violent crimes over there have been stopped by civilians with guns. 48% of their violent crimes. That's nearly 50%. What do we have in Australia? Oh, throw a brick at them. And the only person that did that, unfortunately, died. So,
yeah.
We don't need more gun laws here. We may need to restructure them. Citizens, being a non-citizen, shouldn't have even had a license in the first place. So that's a failure on the government. 100% failure on the government. Right? But if we train our people properly how to do that and respect that and do proper psych vows, I don't see why citizens in this country can't carry a weapon. I don't see why. There is no reason.
I just want to play this for you.
We work closely with the security group, the Jewish security group CSG, the Jewish security group CSG, the Jewish security group CSG, the Jewish security group CSG. We work closely with the security group, the Jewish security group CSG. We work closely with the security group, the Jewish security group CSG, the Jewish security group CSG, the Jewish security group CSG, the Jewish security group CSG. We work closely with the security group, the Jewish security group CSG.
CSG were at that gathering on Sunday in Bondi, and it's my understanding that many of the members of CSG are in fact licensed to carry weapons. So maybe none of them had turned up to that particular event, the ones licensed to carry, because it doesn't appear that there was any of the security that had been employed by the Jewish community for the event. Doesn't appear to be any sign of them in anything that was done, other than, I suspect, a former IDF soldier who was that gentleman who threw the brick, Wade, Vince, that you mentioned, and unfortunately wound up dying for that. I suspect he was former, military of some stage and showed his bravery. There were many older Jewish men who showed their bravery, were walking towards what was going on. And like you said, Vince, all they could do to fight back was throw a brick. It's pretty bloody tragic at the end of the day. Wade, with everything that's going on with farmers, having their land rights taken from them, their ownership rights in part taken from them, or at least overridden by state government at the moment, surely more people than ever are waking up around the country to the tyranny of this government, and it doesn't really matter which level of government, but the tyranny of all government in this country. What are we going to do when we finally get the numbers on our side?
So I might just go back for a second, Carl, to what I say about language. Now, Carl was talking about the government there before, about this license for this bloke, and the government stuffed it up. As people in this space, we need to be very careful about what language we use. And if we say the government stuffed it up, I'm not having a go at Carl because I see this happen. I'm not having a go at Vince. But I see this happen all the time, is that people will say things like that dumbs down the reality of the situation. Now, the reality is, and this is what we must say, the government deliberately made sure the terrorists had access to guns instead of saying, the government stuffed it up. No, the government didn't stuff it up. But this is one of the reasons why the Australian people don't take much notice, is because the people who talk about this use language that is weak and it dumbs it down. So, the things I say are the exact opposite. And, we need to we have a very small percentage of the media that's going around the country at the minute. So we need to be 100% high impact messaging, because if we use their language, then we just reinforce their message, which is it was the guns' fault. The government stuffed it up. And this is why we don't get people who say, hang on, let's take this to task, because they do not get any messaging that there's a problem.
I don't 100% agree with you on that, because effectively they did fuck it up, right, badly, because they allowed that in the first place. Secondly, that might be their plan, as you say, that we have no evidence to prove that, right? Thirdly, they're going to use this to their advantage, as they always do.
Yep.
We know that the mass immigration is a problem. We've been telling them that for friggin' the last year in protests and everything that's been going on. We've been warning them about this, right? So the Australian people are awake, but the government's not doing anything, period. And you're right there, Wade, in that respect. And we need to call them out for it.
Well, the government's
was
now
a
decided
loophole
we're
that
not
was
going to be
used,
allowed
but-
to protest either. So
Yeah,
in Sydney,
yeah.
they can decide whether or not your protest will be allowed to go ahead or not. And I think in part that is because of the call to meet at Cronulla. I think it's on the 27th of December that went out a few weeks ago. You know, come back, reclaim Australia, come back to Cronulla, that kind of thing. I think that worried the security services a bit. They don't want another Cronulla riot. They don't want the Aussies getting upset with anybody who's come into the country because that will create a mess. So I think this new law that they're going to ram through before Christmas is in part so that they can enact those laws against anybody who turns up at Cronulla Beach with anything other than a beach umbrella, a nice bikini, maybe an esky, and good intent. Anybody else will be going home in the back of a divvy van or worse.
So
They protest the very day after that on Bondi. The Palestinians were protesting the very next day. All I have to say is, what the fuck? Do you have no compassion for your Australian compatriots? So get the fuck out of our house. It is our home. Follow our rules.
So the gentleman who disarmed the shooter and then wound up getting shot himself has got $2.5 million delivered to him in donations today, and
Nice.
he is now being roundly hated and targeted in the Arab world as a traitor.
Not by me.
So no, but by
they
his
can
own
do what
people.
they want. So what? Send them home. If they if they think he's a traitor, right? Send them home, because they obviously don't value Australian lives. So they can just fuck off.
I think it's people overseas. I think it's Arabs overseas who are calling him a traitor. I don't know. There's too many of them here, but
that's good.
I believe he's copying it from his. He came from Syria, I think, or comes from Syria, and he's copying a lot of flack. And obviously, he'll be copying a few requests for money. I don't know that he'll have to go back to the smoke shop. Wade, these laws that are going to be rammed through are just another control measure as far as I'm concerned. The government has been preparing for this. They've been talking in the background about this for some time and needing a justification for it. There is rumours that there might be one or potentially more events, maybe like this, maybe an explosive device somewhere, maybe, somebody goes mad with a car or whatever. But there has been apparently talk of that happening before Christmas and maybe again before New Year. Can the Australian people sustain a good nature if we were to sustain 3 attacks like that in the space of a month?
So it depends, I suppose, Carl, on what you mean sustained good nature. I mean, I think that the Australian people are being played, they're being conned, they're being sucked in, and they're being used by this government and the state governments who are on board with this. So I think that we need to start to have to refocus our focus on what we actually need to do. And, they're going to try and stir up trouble between us and whatever Muslims are here. And that the radical Muslims that are here need to be dealt with, and they need to be got rid of. They need to go back to wherever the hell they came from. But by the same
the good
token...
ones can stay.
What's that, mate?
And the good ones can stay.
So does that mean we close down mosques or schools like the one in Sydney that they're talking about so much, where there's a lot of hate preachers that go in and spit their venom for various different lessons? So do we close those schools down? That'll just send them underground into bookshops or backyards or coffee shops, won't it?
Well, I think, and I'll think about that a little bit, but I think overall, if there's a place where hate congregates and hate is propagated, then you do need to look at shutting it down, or you do need to look at making sure that the people who go there are not doing that, because in every real term, as we've just seen, that is a massive security risk, a national security risk. And to go to the full lengths of the whole thing, it is the Islamic intention to totally take over every country on the planet and make it an Islamic country. So that's our baseline. That's where the people of this country need to get their brains into gear and understand that this is a part of a global strategy. And I've said before, all those brainless half-wits who marched across the Sydney Harbour Bridge with their Palestine flags and their ISIS and terrorist flags and all that, do those stupid, dumb people realise that very soon we're looking at being a country that is Islamic and controlled by Sharia law? Now, these brain-dead morons are going to find that their life is, in many cases, ended, because there's a lot of people there, gay and trans and all this. Well, they'll simply just be killed straight off.
Right.
So that just
thrown
goes
off the Sydney Harbour Bridge. They'll walk you straight down Oxford, straight up to the bridge and throw you clean off it. Or they might take a shortcut and figure out a nice way to throw you off the sails of the Opera House. That could be another nice way they'll plan it.
Well,
you can pay. Or you can pay. You can pay them, because that's in the Quran as well.
Well, the thing is, Vince, you won't be paying for long, because that'll have a very short use date, and then we revert back to Plan B. And all the stupid women who are marching across the bridge, whether they understand anything about the Quran or their stuff, but the first thing you're going to do is find yourself living in one of those black tents, right? Yeah. You won't be able to say a thing, otherwise you get the crap bashed out of you. Or the next thing you know, and you can see this on YouTube, on all over the place, the honourable way to stone a woman to death. Now, are these women that brain dead that they are supporting that? Because that is literally what they're supporting, their own death, their own demise. Yep. So what the hell is wrong with these people? So once again, everybody who speaks about this needs to use language that is powerful and is honest and straight. And this is what these laws that they're bringing in are designed to shut down, is anybody's ability to say anything at all about this. So that's pretty well game over for our country. So people better form their voice immediately, or you're stuffed. It's over.
Yeah, social cohesion group, federal task force. We haven't heard much about it, but pretty much guess what that's about. You and I saying something like this, having a discussion about what couldn't happen, etc., are going to get pinged by the Social Cohesion Task Force, because we're not following their guidelines. That's why. So there is so much wrong with this country at the moment.
Israel has placed a lot of pressure on Australia in recent days. Leading up to this, of course, Albanese and his sleazy government were not forthcoming, you would say, in their praise of Israel. That's where this anti-Semitism call has now come out, particularly from Sky News and a lot of the mainstream media services, who, interestingly, are all Jewish-owned. How much of an influence should Israel be allowed to play on the politics here in Australia? And do you think they've played an influence in this decision with gun control?
So, on the same token, I wouldn't trust Israel as far as I could throw them. Because I tell you, as an absolute, guaranteed, 100% fact, the attack that happened on Israel on October 7 in 23 was organised by the Israeli government. So, I would not trust them as I could throw them. So, therefore, where does that leave the Israeli people here in Australia, the Israeli population? It leaves them out on a branch. And I can tell you right now that they are not doing themselves any favours. And Carl, about 3 or 4 years ago, long story short, I didn't know any Jewish people, but I thought there's a lot happening that's very wrong in this country and in the world. So I got to know some people from Israel, Jewish, and I said to them, look, Billboard Battalion is in the business of trying to keep our country safe, calling out the things that are happening. What's going wrong is at a global level, and we need to take it on. And I said, how many people in the Jewish community is prepared to help back Billboard Battalion to fight back against this stuff? And you know how many of the people, and there's a lot of money in the Jewish community, a lot of big businessmen, a lot of business people, and so on. And do you know how many people in the Jewish business community said that they would back us to help fight for their freedom and their life, their safety? Do you know how many said that they'd help us, Carl?
I'd be surprised if any.
None, not one.
Yep.
And now we have this shocking situation where we've got the Jewish community has been just attacked and blown to hell. They've got funerals happening all the time. A 10-year-old child, a young girl, was gunned down.
Just
now, at the end of the day, why is it that the Jewish community refuse to do anything to help themselves? Because I'm here to tell you, this is political. This is not religious. This is political. This is ideological. So therefore, the Jewish community have an enormous amount of capacity to influence Australian politics and call out the government for setting the Jewish community up to be slaughtered, and they don't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
So I've been telling them for a long time this is going to happen, and not one of them wants to become involved in helping to fund Billboard Battalion as a political lobby to fight for their own safety and the safety of their kids. Not one of them would come good. Not one Jewish business, anything, nothing.
No.
So there's something very, very wrong going on in the Jewish community in themselves. There's something very, very wrong happening here.
Well, they support themselves. Jewish businesses support Jewish businesses, and
well, clearly not very well.
Well, it's all in the family, as far as I've been led to believe when it comes to Jewish business, and certainly from Goyim, they don't accept too much by way of ideas or information or anything else, because they might have to pay us if they took on an idea that we came from. I had the opportunity to work for a couple of Jewish blokes some years ago, and I was quite surprised because I'd never met or really known Jewish people before, certainly never worked for them before. And I actually said to the boss one night, who wasn't Jewish, said to him, I don't know why people say what they do about Jewish people. He said, "Oh, just wait." This was not long after I'd started. And he said, "Just wait." Sure enough, 6 months into it, you know why? Because they'll have no interest in advancing anything to help you. If you were Jewish, they would help you hand over fist. But if you're not Jewish, they don't help. So,
well, I mean, the odd thing about it is, Carl, that what I'm talking about is the Jewish people helping themselves, but they're not doing it, and they refuse to do it. So,
well, I think it's because there is a division. There are very, very good Jewish folks. When we're using Jewish as a broad term, we need to split this up between the Jewish side and the Zionist side of Israel, because those that follow Zion are more of a problem, or they are the problem, rather than those who would follow the Torah and something of a more traditional Jewish, outlook on things. Zion or Zionists are the issue. Not all Jews are Zionists, but certainly the problem Jews are all Zionists. And that is what the outrage in many circles is now starting to turn towards. It's the acts of Zion, the political bastardry, if you like, of Zion, because Zion is a political persuasion. It's not a religion. It's a political persuasion. And those that follow the Talmud aren't even Jewish. So, they follow a completely different bloke, if you could call it that. So we don't want to tar all Jews with the same brush. There are fabulous Jews, and I know I've received donations from some wonderful Jewish people. But when it comes to, I don't want to say the dark side ones, but they all tend to be around working for themselves and for the Jewish state. They don't treat Australia, or they don't believe or even consider Australia as home. Israel is their home, and that goes for Jews that are born here in Australia. They are always taught that Israel is home. You've got to go home and spend some time at home, and that's why you wind up in the IDF for a couple of years before you get to come back to Australia and be whatever you want to be here. But by then, you've been well indoctrinated into whichever part of the Jewish faith that you're into, and you come back and work for that. Pretty much exclusively has been my experience, but I'm open to be corrected, of course. I just think that the nature, that the pressure that they've been able to bring this week to force state and federal governments, who were obviously champing at the bit for whatever reason to bring in these extra gun laws, I'm just surprised that that's been able to happen so quickly.
So
I don't, I'm not surprised at all, because if you've already got the thing sitting there, and if you already know that this thing is going to be done, then our security, look, the security forces in this country can hear you snore. They know every word you utter. If you talk in your sleep, they know what you're talking about. So they would absolutely have had step-by-step information in real time as to what these people were going to do, when they were going to do it, how they were going to do it. So this didn't happen they didn't just organise this at the drop of a hat, Carl. They planned this for a long, long, long time. And, one of the things that is really just sickening is people that say, I don't believe the government would do that. I don't believe the government. No, I can't believe that. Okay? Idiots. Is the evidence that is right in front of your face? What the hell's wrong with you?
It's programming. People have been programmed from birth, by family, by school, and ultimately at university. If you were one of those super intelligent folks who managed to get to university, all you did was take on the programming and swallow it all, particularly if you've got your degree and numbers after your name and letters after your name and, all that sort of shit. Just means you were able to take the programming very, very well. I'm not having a go at people for saying that. They've been driven to be successful. That's how we've been told this life is meant to be. You work hard, you go to university, you gain some degree, which in theory sets you up to make a lot of money in the future. There are plenty of people who've gone and got arts degrees and all that sort of shit, who I think are, working as shop assistants and petrol pump attendants these days, and even those jobs are going. So university programming, if you like, is now being found to have limited value to those people who actually have to come out and work in a society that is not as they believe it to be.
Most definitely. And look, shop assistants, petrol pump attendants, nothing wrong with that. No. These people are working, they're making a living, and that's great, and we want to see that. But people just have to just take the next step into intelligence. And I mean, yes, the people going through the universities, we all know that the communists took over the universities 50, 60, 70 years ago, and the people that come out of them have a big dose of woke, extremist, left-wing indoctrination. Many of them are unable to think rationally. And I do get into a few discussions with people like that. I had a discussion with a bloke, and this happens many, many, many times, about the COVID stuff. And people resort back to, I know a doctor, and my doctor says this and that and the other thing. But what your doctor won't do is they will not publicly debate doctors that I know, and doctors who are prepared to publicly debate these other murderers, these killers who push the mRNA poison. They will not debate them. And we've got a panel of medical experts who are ready to go at the drop of a hat, public debate. So this is a classic example. If you've got so-called experts who will not debate publicly, then they're crooked, they're corrupt, and they're criminals. Well, that's my opinion for the most part of them anyhow.
Yep. Tend to agree, 100%. Vince, anything to add?
People need to stop forgetting what's happened over the last 5 years and all the controls and all the measures that have been put in place. And go back and remember the masks, the fines, the bullshit that's been proven wrong time and time and time again. And bring this back up and say to yourselves, come on, really? You have to be awake that something is terribly wrong here. And we, as the people in this country, are literally being stomped on, and we're not even complaining about it.
Yep.
Right? It's not the fact. We need to complain because these people that are coming into our country now, don't get me wrong, I am not in any way racist. As you all know, my daughter is marrying a beautiful Indian gentleman who's been here since he was 3, and I wish they had kids because that'd be absolutely lovely. But the whole point being that we have too much happening. We don't have the infrastructure. And I'm going to tell you, as an IT person, 98% of these people aren't going to get jobs because guess what's going to take it? AI. AI is going to take so many jobs. So, we need to really revamp and rethink everything that we do. Yes, Vince, I don't take one incident out of context. Yeah, well, I mean, everybody has their own thoughts on context, right? So some of what Wade says and what I think may differ, but the result's still the same. It's still the destruction of our country, period. And that's
absolutely. All right, give us a wave.
Yes, and I would love grandchildren, but all my kids are saying, all 6 of them, not going to happen because this world's not good enough for them to be brought into.
Wow.
So there you go.
Wow. That's really sad. All right. Thank you, mate. Thank you for everything you did for us. Cheers. You're a gentleman. Wade, what about you? Billboard Battalion having a bit of a rest over Christmas? Are you, you've got cows to milk, so you're not going to be going too far, I imagine?
Well, I don't do the cow milking thing anymore, Carl. My life's pretty well over in terms of doing anything where you actually try and make any money. We'll be in Sydney probably tomorrow night. We're going to go to Bondi. We got back from South Australia there yesterday. And so we'll be heading to Sydney tomorrow. And, we wish that we could just take a break for a while. But at the end of the day, Australia is at war. It is under attack. And we need people who are going to at least get out there and tell the truth. And, big part of what we're trying to do, Carl, as we've discussed before, is try and get the people who have platforms like us at least tell the straight shooting truth. Because, I know I got a discussion with someone there just this morning about many of the things that you and I have talked about. And the discussion didn't go too far because she said to me, oh, Wade, look, just give people a chance to grieve. Just give people a chance to deal with this. And Absolutely. By all means, the community is hurting. But here's the deal. I brought this up with the Jewish community 3 years ago. And they weren't in a situation then where they were grieving. That was the time when what they're grieving about now was being organised.
Yeah.
So, we come at this from a position of loving our people, loving our country, loving the people who are here. We're not coming at this from a position of because we're aggressive or nasty or horrible or anything else. We do what we do. We don't get paid for this. We do what we do here on the bones of our backside because we're trying to make the Australian people aware of what's happening to them in real terms. So, when I say we need to do certain things, we started this with the Jewish community 3 or 4 years ago. And I can just say, Carl, I've spoken to a fair few farmers just recently about the things that, that are going on in the ag sector. And people are going, oh, look, wait, I really can't listen at the minute, because, we've got harvest going on. We're very busy. We've got harvest. And I say, listen, mate, I was telling you this 10 years ago. 10 harvests ago. We've had 10 winters since then. We've had 10 autumns. So, just stop giving me this crap about we can't do something because all of a sudden this has happened. This has happened most probably because you didn't do anything about it before when I was trying to get people to do things about it before.
Sure.
So, therefore, it is very possible that if people had have taken action a number of years ago, we wouldn't be burying these people from Bondi Beach now.
Yep.
So I absolutely get people need to grieve and people need to come to terms with things. I totally get that. And, we support so many people in that kind of stuff, you wouldn't believe it. But by the same token, if you don't deal with the reality of the problem, then it's going to happen again. And then you're going to be grieving and burying a whole heap more people.
Yep.
So, we've got to get real here. We've got to get serious about this. And we can't just constantly be a country of people who are grieving over loss.
Exactly.
The people we buried through the COVID vaccines, the people who are killed by the COVID vaccines, and that's literally what happened. They were murdered.
The government isn't grieving. The government
what's
isn't grieving. They're making more laws of control against us all. They're not grieving. They're moving on and putting more restraints on us.
And their objective is to kill more of you. So for the people, and I know a bloke who I talk to a fair bit, and he says, oh, look, I'm not doubting what you say. He said, but I just can't believe that the governments would do this to you. Well, what more evidence do you need? I mean, at what point do supposedly intelligent people, the light bulb comes on and they go, hang on a minute, here is the evidence of facts right in front of us.
Yep, 100%. Wade, thanks very much. I hope you and Belinda have a very happy, safe, Merry Christmas and New Year. Probably we'll talk to you somewhere between now and then anyway, but I hope you have a great time if we don't catch up. Please pass on my best to Nick and his family as well. Thank you for everything that you've done with us throughout the year, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more with you next year.
And you're most welcome, Carl, and thank you very much for all the effort that you've put in. People don't know that, you a few weeks ago there you did a hell of a lot of Ks to get down to support us at Canberra, and so much work that you and Vince did to make things happen there. That was amazing, and the best Christmas to you too, mate. And we need all of our industries, our industry leaders, our freedom people leaders to get serious on this stuff, get in the program, because they're going to come back and do it again if we don't do anything about it and if we don't take their threats seriously and call it out and deal with it.
I got one thing. As you're going to Bondi, mate, you may need a little bit of help. This might be able to help you, given that call for other people in this sphere to come in and get
when you come to
themselves
Sydney,
involved.
mate, just know this is the Aussie Cossacks' backyard.
He might be able to help you there somehow, do you think?
Yeah, well, you just never know.
Have yourself a bloody great Christmas, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
You too, Carl. Thanks very much. And to Vince as well, mate. See you later. Cheers,
mate. Wade Northousen Billboard Battalion. Great people. If you're going to be in Sydney tomorrow, probably not tomorrow. They're heading to Sydney tomorrow, but they will be at Bondi Beach at some point. Watch for Billboard Battalion socials for details on that. And I'm going to love you and leave you at that point tonight, folks. I would remind you that you can always help us out at vofhq.com by a donation, or you can get off to our merch site, merch.vofhq.com, and spend $2 to go into our raffle. You could win $750 or an ounce of silver in the form of Byron Bobs, which we will send off to you post haste. Only $2 an entry. You can buy a maximum of 20 tickets. There's only 750 tickets in the draw, and we would love to be able to give away another $750 before Christmas. We can only do it with your help. So please, if you can do that, that would be wonderful. You can see the link there is up on the screen at the moment, thanks to Vince, who is doing a marvelous job today. Well, folks, it has been one hell of a week. It started out with my birthday, and, well, I guess the week started out with a massacre, followed by my birthday, and then a whole heap of other strange, weird, interesting, and other crap has happened. I could say many things about this week, but I might just leave it to John Wilson.
And what a clustered fuck this is.
Have yourself a great weekend, folks. If you are on the roads, be very safe. There are dickheads aplenty, and tomorrow I am going to be one of them. Would love to join you, if you have time, on Sunday for lunch on the Sunshine Coast. Now, tomorrow I'm going to help Laura do a few things. Then I'm going to go and catch up with What The and the puppies. Carl Jr. is heading to Victoria, I am told. So, and we'll probably be in for a new name. But heading to Victoria, I think most of the puppies have been sold now. A couple of them are going to Arnhem Land, to a couple of rangers up there, or a ranger. And we'll catch up with What The. And I'm going to catch up with Galactic Larry Cans as well. Well, one, Bradford. So tomorrow night, you may well see a short live from the Galactic Larrikins Hilltop Abode. We'll see how all that goes, but that could be tomorrow night. Sunday, lunch. Now, we're going to do lunch. There are a few people who said they'd like to catch up. So I'm going to tell you where exactly we are going to be, because they sent me a text. I'm not expecting you to come for lunch, and I'm not expecting big numbers at this lunch. So it's just to tell you that we're with the Northern Grounds, which used to be the Waterfront Hotel in Bly, but it's now called the Northern Grounds. Apparently, they've had a big renovation. So 12:30, there is a table there in my name. If you want to come, go and put yourself on that table. I think I've got 2, 4, I think I've got 5, 6, maybe 7 people on it at the moment. It is a table for 10, but it will grow. So just tell them there's already 7 people on the table when they ask to add your name to it, and they'll just keep growing the table if it's at all possible. It is a busy day for them. If it all gets too hard, maybe we'll make it Sunday night. I don't know. That'd be a long time for me to sit at a bar. We'll see. Anyway, if you'd like to come, that's on the Sunshine Coast on Sunday. Bly, beautiful part of the world, the Waterfront Hotel, which is now called the Northern something or other, in league with It Is a Great Northern Pub. So at least they're selling the good beer. And if that's the case, you can rest assured this dickhead won't be driving anywhere. Have yourself a bloody great weekend, folks, and we will speak over.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back! Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!